Since Easter comes early this year, I thought we'd better jump into the Easter projects pretty quickly. So today I have a little Easter Gnomess for you. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy she is to make. All right, here are all the pieces cut out for our gnomess, or our lady gnome. I do recommend, if you're doing this at home and not trying to do a video, that you only take off the 4 body pieces, glue those together, and then do the next set and take them off of the mat or cut them out from the PDF by shape so you don't have everything on your work surface at once. I do this simply for the video. It makes it easier for you guys to see what I've got. So what do we have? For the most part, we have sets of three layers that we'll be gluing together. The exceptions being these 2 individual pieces are the liners for the ears. There's only 2 and they are to remain a single layer. And the back or base piece is 4 layers thick. I've found over the last little over a year of doing these that having that backing piece as 4 layers, I like how they turn out better. The 3 layers that we did initially are fine. It's just I prefer the 4 layers for that piece. Excuse me, my sinuses are draining really badly. They put new carpet in our building in the hallway, and something they stirred up out there has me so congested I can barely breathe. So I apologize in advance here. So what do we have? We have the backing, we have the ear liners, like I said. We have 2 sets of hands, a right hand and a left hand. So we have these go together and these go together. And I've got these laid out approximately, or had them laid out approximately the way they are on the pattern. We have 2 sets of 3 shoes or feet. We have the noses, we have the ears, we have a hat band, the hat, an Easter egg, and we have 2 hair braids. So let's start gluing some of these together. And as we do, I'll talk to you about what I normally talk to you about at this point, which is what the pattern is, where to find it. So I have created a free pattern for you. It's free for you to use as many times as you would like. You can make as many of these gnomes as you want. You can do whatever you want with the gnomes. You can give them away. You can keep them. You can sell them. You can do whatever you want with the gnomes. I just ask that you don't give away or sell my pattern, because the only compensation I get for the time I spend making the pattern, which does take time, it does take some time sometimes to figure out how to make the different shapes. The only compensation I get for that is the little bit of money I get when you guys click on the video or click on the blog link. So please respect the fact that I've put a lot of time and effort into these patterns, and I'd like to be able to keep giving them to you for free, but if too many people break the rules, I'm not going to be able to do that. So where do you find the pattern? The link for today's pattern is in the blog post that goes with today's video. The link for the blog post is in the description box below the video. The link will take you to a Google Drive. You'll download a file that contains 3 pieces. It will have the PNG file that you can use on your electronic cutting machine. It will have a text file that tells you about sizing and other little hints and tips I might have to go with the pattern. And there'll also be a PDF pattern if you want to print it out on your computer printer and cut it out by hand. And for the most part, these projects are very doable that way. I've got people that do them that way every month, and they have a blast with them. You just have to be a little more patient to cut them out by hand. So I cut these out of a medium weight white cardstock. Then I glue the layers together by using multiple layers of a medium weight cardstock. It's very strong and sturdy, but we don't have to have a really heavy material that's hard to cut. By using white and painting it with acrylic paints, I find that acrylic paints tend to be a lot more light fast, so our projects are going to stay nice longer. They don't fade like the colored cardstock does. And as a bonus, you only have to keep white cardstock for all of these projects. You don't have to go find a new color cardstock every time I put up one of these patterns. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Oh, I'm using just a very thick tacky glue, and I put it on with a toothpick in a thin layer. I have better luck with that than I do when I try to use, something like a glue stick or something. I always have trouble getting glue sticks to stay. I've had too many projects that I've glued with a glue stick, and I go to get them out next year and they've come completely apart. So I don't even bother with that for these kinds of projects anymore. So I am going to turn the camera off. I'm going to finish gluing all these. There will be a photo of the, as I refer to them, units all glued together over on the blog post. And when we come back, we'll look at them, because when we come back, once the glue dries all the way, we'll come back and we will start painting the individual units. So I'll see you then. All right, my glue is all dried, and in fact, it's dried overnight. And I've laid these out onto tape that is sticky side up. This is just wide masking tape for these. These are the smaller ear pieces that are going to be inside the ear. I always call it an ear liner. I don't know really what to call it. But they're a single layer. So I put those on washi tape because that's a lot lower stick. It's less apt to damage that single layer. These multiple layer pieces that are, once the glue is completely dry, are pretty strong. Very seldom do you damage them on the stickier tape, and it holds them so much better. So let's start painting these. I'm not going to paint them all on camera. I'm going to paint a few of them on camera. And then I'll turn the camera off and paint them. And once they're dry, if I decide I need a second coat, I'll do that. And then I'll come back and we can start assembling. Now, don't worry about what colors I'm using, because when the video goes up, the blog post for this video will also go up. And on that blog post, I will show photos of each of the colors that I use with the pieces I used. That way you have a better idea of what the colors look like. So you can go through your paint stash and see what you want to use for your gnome. So let's start with these little ears. I've got a whole tub of paint here. I've got some very pale pink. I'm going to paint those with a very pale pink, so they look like the inside of the bunny ears. And I'm going to have a whole stack of dirty paintbrushes when I get done to wash. All right, and this will only need one coat. I know that one will only need one coat. I won't have to worry about that, because that is single layer of paper, and that's a very pale color. I'm going to start over here. I actually have a cheat sheet to the side. I'm going to paint this egg with a pale yellow. But it's just a matter of picking your paint color and painting. We are going to actually, before we assemble, when we come back, we are going to do some decorative painting on some of the pieces. I want to paint the egg. I haven't decided exactly what design I'm going to do, but I'm going to do a design on the egg, and I'm going to do a design on her hat this time. Let's get the ears painted with a white, and then I'm going to turn the camera off. So I'm going to just sit here and continue painting until I get everything painted. And yes, I do paint the white pieces with white paint. It makes the texture the same as the other painted pieces, and it also helps to blend everything together so it no longer looks like multiple pieces of cardstock. So when these are ready to go to the next step, I'll come back and we can do that. All right, so my pieces are all painted and they have dried, and I'm not going to put any more coats of paint on. So let's start working on what we're going to do is design. So I'm going to start by putting some lines to kind of represent hair ties on her hair. Now you could add lines to make it look like braids. We've done that on, I know we did it on the first Lady Gnome. I haven't done it since. it's really hard on camera to do that and have it look right. All right, now her hair looks like it's tied. So let's start working on the egg. For the egg, I'm just going to pick a paintbrush that's got a it's rounded but not super rounded end. Let's start with the same pink. This is the same pink, by the way, that I used for the backing on the gnome. And it's okay if these are not perfect. Okay, off because I'm going to, probably won't put any more than that on of that color. I have some purple, which we are going to tie in here in a minute. And when I'm doing polka dots or something like that, I try to do, for some reason I've always learned to do it in groups of 3. Watched several different card makers online, and they always did those in groups of 3, so that's what I do too. Now you could do other designs on these. You don't have to do the same ones I do, obviously. All right, and I think that's let's go ahead and add the pale blue too. This is the blue from the hat. And let's do this one kind of off there, and maybe one here, maybe one there. All right, that's probably about as many dots as we want on there. Now, let's go ahead and decorate the hat. And I think for the hat, I want a bigger paintbrush. I want a paintbrush handle that's a little bigger around. So I'm using this one. And I'm going to do this off to the side. I don't want it smack dab in the middle. I'm going to do one yellow dot. And then we're going to get out the white. And do and it's okay if this ends up being underneath the hat band on that part. I'm okay with that. And that's all we're going to do there. So I'm going to let these paints dry, and then we can start our assembly process. All right, the paint is completely dried, so now we can start by adding the little pink bit to the inside of our ears. I'm just using the same glue I've been using. It's a nice thick tacky glue. I'm kind of centering it side to side and trying to line it up pretty close with the bottom of the ears. And since this is only one layer of paper on the center of the ears, I think we'll be okay to go ahead and do our next step at the same time. Just be careful when you come to the ears. They should be set up by the time we get to them. Excuse me. All right, I've got a little bit of washi tape. I'm going to put it down on my tray. Now I liked how I did the lady gnome, or the gnomess, last month, where I kind of made her braids go out at an angle a little bit. So I think I'm going to do the same thing this time. You can put yours straight down, you can put them to the sides, you can do them any way you want. So let's set the hat up here. I'm going to put these not too far out. Just have her braids going out a little bit. I like to put this on top of the tape. That way I know that they're not going to move when I put the hat on. And let's double check. I'm going to make sure that they don't stick out past the sides of the hat. Now you'll notice I have just the pieces I'm going to glue now in front of me. The rest of them are still attached to their piece of tape. That way I don't lose any pieces on my work table, especially if I have to walk away for a few minutes. Let's get the nose on next. I put the nose on at this point in case you see how there's some glue coming out there? Well, if I didn't put the nose on now and that glue dried, it would make a lump that would make it really hard to get the nose put up into that little groove that's there. The nose will fit really nicely as long as there's no glue set there. No glue sticking out there to form a lump that's dried. I'm going to put on the brim. And that can kind of overlap her nose a little bit if you want it to. And now we're just going to, and it's going to cover part of her flower, and that's okay. I'm not sure how much of this is going to touch the back of, that back of this ear is going to touch the hat, so I'm just going to cover the whole thing with glue. It won't matter. You could have the ears go out, you could have them go straight up, you can do whatever you want. That's the beauty of putting these together. You can make yours individual. You can make them any color, you can put any designs on. Whatever you want for your piece. All right, now I want this glue. I kind of totally lost my hat, but that's okay. I'm going to let this glue set up enough that this will stay together when I put it onto the body. So I'm going to let this dry for a while anyway, and then I'll come back and we can go to the next step. All right, that's had enough time to get set up enough that it should stay together. So I'm going to glue it on here. And I'm going to put glue on right here and on the braids. Because those are the only parts that are going to be touching. And then we're going to put, and this is where I always mess up, is I always get her hat on, I always get the head on these guys crooked. Now a line of glue across, make sure you're on my camera, across the bottom, and we've got the two shoes. Line the flat edge of the shoe up with the bottom of the gnome. And you can put them wherever you want. There. Now I'm going to let this glue set up so that I don't accidentally bump anything and knock anything out of place. And I'm going to give it probably about 5 minutes, and I'll come back and we'll do the last part of the glue. All right, this glue's had some time to dry, so I am going to, and it doesn't need very much. I think it's been about 10 minutes. I just didn't want to bump and have the head move, shift, or the shoes shift off to a different location. Now you can put the Easter egg anywhere you want, and you can put the hands at any angle you want. Again, that's the beauty of making your own projects. You can take my design and you can personalize it. Now this glue will need to dry for a couple of reasons. Number one, Well, we don't want this to fall apart, but most importantly, if there's any cloudiness left from the white glue on the piece, if we seal it with a sealer, like I'm going to seal with Mod Podge when this is dry, I don't want to Mod Podge until that glue is completely clear, because if I do, there's a chance it could stay cloudy under the Mod Podge. So I'm going to make sure she's exactly the way I want her, and then I'm going to let her dry completely. And when she's completely dry, I'll come back, we'll put a clear finish on, and then we can see how she looks on the front porch of the dollhouse. All right, the glue has all dried, all the cloudiness is gone, so I've got just a pretty soft brush and some satin Mod Podge. I'm going to give the front a nice even light coat, and then I will, and around the edges, be sure you catch those edges. That will help everything to stay sealed together. Then once I have that dry enough that I can turn it over, I will put a coat on the back also. That way it seals the back and it makes the whole thing a lot more stable, a lot more sturdy, so you can put it away and bring it out again next year and put it for your dollhouse decorations next year also. Do make sure that you use a fairly light, even coat of something like Mod Podge, because I have found that Mod Podge tends to stay sticky when it's too thick. It doesn't seem to matter what the surface is I'm putting it on. If I get it too thick, it has a nasty habit of staying sticky. So I'm going to let this dry a bit, turn it over, do the back, and then I'll meet you over at the dollhouse. And there we have our Gnomess standing on the front porch with all our other Easter decorations we've done the last few years. I love how the Easter themed porch stuff is coming out. I hope you do too. Be sure and check the blog post for more information. Of course, the link to get your free copy of the downloadable pattern, as well as photos and more. And like I said, more information. If you enjoyed the video, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, I encourage you. Hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.